Okay, day two. Um, as in the first introduction, just go through some of the things that I've learned over my life, and pondering about my brother John. That he passed away at 46. I'm 44. Not saying I'm going to pass away at 46, but just thought that it would be good to share some of the things I've learned. Um, Maybe a little bit of my formal education to describe some of that experience, and then the informal as well. But I just love to read. And so I remember reading some books early on. There was ebbs and flows, as a child reading, and then teenager. There's times where I was very intense reader, and then other times where I was just content to be with my friends all the time. Lots of wonderful friends. Jared Curitan, spent a lot of time with Jeremy Robinson, Matt Larson, Ryan Erickson, and then later into middle school, Travis Kay, Matt Egan, Sean Summers. Sean was so nice to me growing up. Invited me to his family's cabin. That was during the winter. That was a great memory. Um, and then started spending time with Preston Pugmire, Eric Durfee, Kimball Shirley, um, and with the band Sheep's End and National Holiday, playing drums with them. Those were such good times. Lots and lots of practice. We practiced all the time. Played lots of shows. Lincoln Hepworth, um, and so many wonderful people that surrounded me, and helped me and influenced me for good, leading up to um, those really difficult times where I was struggling with deep depression, hopelessness, and even suicidal ideation, quite a bit. And so it was a blessing to be surrounded by those that built me up, and Anna Alford and others who believed in me and shared things with me, and share scriptures, or just little thoughts of seeing my potential and giving me good cause to hope for one more day, even though I had a lot of struggles. It was healing for me to learn more about my Aunt Maddie, Dorius, others who struggled with their mental health. Uh, Maybe I don't want to over unduly try to diagnose people, but maybe some bipolar, or even some other manic episodes, depressed episodes, some of those really difficult times where you're trying so hard to figure out why your energy levels are changing so often, and changing from ecstatic, you know, just joy, to then the very or this ecstatic happiness in one moment, and excitement and passion and focus, and then the very next moment it's moving into irritability and mood swings, and struggling with even a sense of identity, and all those ups and downs. For me, those struggles with just feeling like I wasn't worth anything, no matter what. Even though I was surrounded by my mom and my sisters and so many good friends and others during these growing up times, that just would say that I had worth and remind me, but I just didn't feel it. It was like feeling the sun, but my skin just wasn't registering the heat, or the warmth, or the light. But yeah, I mean, I did just, yeah, I think for those, just sharing, that I read a lot of, I read about a lot about Bruce Lee during those times. I read some books about his philosophy, Asian, Chinese, uh, Japanese, a lot of different Asian philosophy, Chinese philosophy in particular, and just the idea of looking into nature for ideas and thoughts of centering, and those were really fun to read. I read books on being a stunt double learning about what that would be like, that was something that, you know, I always thought would be really exciting. And then I received my patriarchal blessing that specifically warned me to be really careful around, you know, anything that could lead to an accident. So I thought that was so interesting that I received very specific counsel on being careful about, you know, those things. Cause I think because of that sense of hopelessness and just, you know, just depression, kind of a flat, neurology, you know, and but just kind of the flatness of it all. That anytime a friend would dare me to do something, I would just jump and do it, you know, run around in the snow without any shoes on or without much on at all. I would always be the first to go out and do it because that, you know, I think there was a sense of that, you know, physical pain, that I can kind of empathize with others that would just like, whether it was running through the snow or literally bridge jumping into water there, around St. Anthony and other places, just not even thinking twice, jumping off the bridge right into the water. You know, those kind of things, just kind of helping your body and your brain remember what it felt like to be alive, because you just kind of miss what that is. So, but over those years of turning from extreme mood swings from excitement to even anger. Like I had a lot of anger issues, that I had to deal with. I remember one time just screaming, you know, just yelling, and even, you know, swearing at Preston Pugmire when we were at Monkey Rock, and he was lighting off bottle rockets or something, and I was swimming down below, and I got so mad at him, you know, and just so angry and screaming at him top of my lungs. And I remember writing him as a missionary, asking for his forgiveness, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really." I think he said he didn't remember it, or that he was like, "Hey, no worries, you know, don't worry about it." So that all those are amazing experiences to be surrounded by people who forget, build you up, remind you. Even though I had so many anxieties, I mean, think about as it being a member of the band and a drummer in the band. You know, when we got home from our missions, I would always like overanalyze. I'm going to quit the band. I'm going to quit the band, you know, thinking like maybe I shouldn't be in a rock band because I'm a student at BYU Idaho and I'm preparing to become a seminary teacher in my mind, and, you know, and all these things. And then, just constant anxiety that I'm doing something wrong with my life, or I'm going to make a poor decision, or that, you know, I have empathy with those that, what do they call that? Religious scrupulosity, you know, like, those on their mission or before their mission or in the church or out of the church or whatever, in and out. Like I have a little bit of empathy, I think, on that, because of just these constant relentless thoughts of I'm not good enough, you know, perfectionism and all that. But then I don't know why that the typical, I think, path of religious scrupulosity and feeling that anxiety and feeling that just that constant shame or guilt or whatever. I don't know why for me, it just kept turning me more and more to the Savior and more to the scriptures and more to kind of, um, remind myself that maybe the way that the presentation was given by a seminary teacher or a Sunday school teacher or you know, a sacrament speaker or someone in general conference. I don't know why over time I was able to kind of sift through all those emotions. Maybe not even until in my 30s, or, you know, where I was finally able to say, you know what, I'm going to go back and re-listen to that talk, or kind of, you know, rethink of it in a new way, to be like, is that really what the speaker meant, is for me to feel all this baggage and this shame? And sometimes I think that it was a little bit overdone, but I think that mostly the motives of the speakers and the presenters, seminary teachers, everything, primary teachers growing up, it really was to, teach us that there are laws, eternal laws. There's consequences. We need to be careful, be aware of them. They're real. You can't hide from them. These eternal laws are, you know, um, true, and, there are blessings when you obey them, and there are, just like Old Testament language, there are, bitter, bitter consequences if you disobey. And that being true, and obviously there's so much in there, that's oversimplifying our life, but but overall, the long arc is, it is true. There's truth there. But I think sometimes we emotionally, especially if we've grown up and we have some emotional baggage or mental baggage, sometimes we overemphasize that and we don't hear the other part of the message, which is right in the same message of you'll be blessed if you with obedience and the law of obedience and sacrifice and the gospel, chastity, consecration. I think the other part that maybe we don't hear as much is like in every single symbol, every single covenant, every single ordinance is just imbued with grace and forgiveness and understanding and patience and love and a true, like President Nelson says, Hesed covenant of just binding us to one another. Well, he'll never give up on us. He'll always reach out for one more chance. And I experienced that and watched that with my beloved neighbor Dusty, my best friend Jared's dad, and how, like, I think he beat himself up so many times, that he wasn't perfect in these ways and he was struggling with certain things. And I don't know, watching him struggle in that way just always reminded me that I need to be careful of how I treat myself, because I love Dusty so much and I wanted him to be kinder and more patient with himself, that I need to be careful that I don't overdo it and get upset at myself, that I can be patient with myself. I do want to just share a couple more things. It's just all that reading, in Chinese philosophy and then obviously in the scriptures and elsewhere, led into a desire to learn and study psychology, neuroscience, chemistry there at BYU Idaho. And then after that, I learned more about the power of our brains and neuroscience and how it impacts learning and leadership. So I went uh, um, to BYU Provo and learned about, international education and different cultural approaches to education and development, and the power of education and social policy and education policy and research. And then the PhD with the University of Utah, learning about, again, different cultural approaches to education and the power of learning and the development journey, and just the beauty and the joy of someone who has a desire to learn, someone has a desire to grow, someone has a desire to change, to try something new, to try something different, and the honor and the sacred honor it is to be there next to that person, to be a mentor, a helper, or just encourager, a cheerleader, to say you're doing it, keep going. Life, these things can be hard, but there are interconnections between our biology, our neuroscience, our physical, also our emotional, our intellectual, our social, and our spiritual, and how they're all connected together. I'll share one example. Is I just got knee surgery, and the kind of that throbbing pain, and there was on my shin, they must have had to tighten it down really hard. There's a big old bruise across all my shin, and just kind of feeling that throbbing or whatnot over time. There was a bunch of blisters and some other things from the cast that they did afterwards, or the wrap, and just like feeling that day after day after day. And like after time where I realized that, for my mental health, all through the last several decades, I've been able to exercise, I've been able to eat nutritious, to keep my mental health, of being careful of what, types of TV shows I watch or movies that I watch that might impact my mental health in any way. And just to stay, grounded and based in reality, and just careful of how that neuroscience, the chemistry, the biology, the spiritual, everything is interconnected. And that pain, that throbbing, just over time, and the lack of exercise over 2 weeks, it really started to affect my sense of discouragement and even irritability, those things. And just realizing that, okay, or trying to remember and give myself grace, and just saying like, wow, it really is so interconnected. When I'm not doing well mentally, then the pain, like the physical pain, actually felt like it was more. I was reacting to it, much more sensitive than I would if I had been exercising and taking care of myself in that way. being careful in that way, and how all that kind of is interconnected and trickles down. It was just a good reminder these last 2 weeks trying to heal, that I need to be patient and loving and kind to those that struggle with their mental health, and how it connects to their physical well-being, and also their financial well-being, and their temporal well-being, and also their spiritual well-being, and just to be really patient and kind. Another good reminder of what my patriarchal blessing reminds me that I'll have that capacity to do, to be kind and gentle with those around me and treat them the way that Heavenly Father would treat them. And then just one thing, I'll have lots and lots of reviews of different books that I've read, but I wanted to just talk. It's Christmas Eve, so the Christmas Carol, but there's also a second book that was written as kind of this sequel to the Christmas Carol, and it's about Marley, and he is watching Scrooge and the impact and influence he had on Scrooge, and then the pain of watching Scrooge struggle and be selfish and not be able to see all the beauty and the joy of the reality that we're all brothers and sisters and children of God, and this life is a time to be there for one another, to help each other, and to not focus on these other selfish pursuits that Scrooge is. And so Marley's pain viewing Scrooge from the spirit world is all because he's hearing Scrooge repeat the same philosophies and the same reactions, the same types of sayings, that he said when he was on earth, and how painful it was not just to see a reflection of himself in Scrooge, but to realize that the way that we treat one another, the things that we say over time, both the good and the bad, do carry on, and our influence does carry on to others. And we have to we go to the spirit world and have to watch and accept the consequences of the good things that we did, but also the negligent things that we did that may have carried on, and how painful that is. And the pain that we feel is an invitation for us to repent, to see things with a fresh view, to try again, to try again to influence others around us, to say this life truly is so much more than just what maybe we're told on social media, Instagram, etc., of what things to value. But we need to be careful of what we value, because what we value will inevitably impact those around us, and we'll have to watch the consequences of that over the long term. Love you. Talk to you tomorrow.